Welcome back to the Mommamia show. I am your host, Mia Joy. I definitely love saying that. And for today's our second episode, we are talking to one of my best friends, Laura Bell, because she races Porsches, like dead ass. So, say hi, Laura.
Hello.
Yes, I am so excited to get to talk to you about this. I know we were talking a little bit earlier before we started recording about how we've been like best friends for years and never actually sat down and talked about this, but to be fair and in my defense, we have a lot in common, so we tend to talk about that stuff.
Exactly. Way more important things to talk about. It's fine. We're good.
I don't want you to label it like that, just like different things. Not more important.
Very different things. It's fine.
Okay, so I think the first thing to start off with is like, how did you get into racing Porsches? It's not necessarily a hobby that I feel like a lot of people are like, I'm gonna do that. So.
It's not common. And there's kind of two ways that I got into it. Primarily family. You know, I'm 100% my father's daughter. I will do anything my dad does. It used to be hunting and fishing. I do that with him. And then he has been into cars his whole life. His dad raced cars. His dad raced Porsches. And he retired and he got into racing. And that was when I was a freshman in college. But I actually started doing things with cars when I was like 16. I started doing autocross because, well, so I long story short, I got a ticket, and I had to take defensive driving. And basically it consisted of going through basically like this obstacle course in your car. And you could only do it, I think like the top speed they let you do it at was like 30 miles an hour. Because like most people never get up to that speed during this obstacle course.
Okay.
But I got up to it like that, and they were like, basically pulled me over and they were like, why are you here? You clearly know how to drive a car and operate like at high speeds. Why are you here? And I was like, first off, this ticket isn't my fault. We won't get into that. I was like, so I shouldn't be here, but I am, because I'm legally bound by the law to be here, unfortunately. So they were like, yeah, basically you can do this course at whatever speed you want. And I was like, cool. So I did it super fast, and it was a lot of fun. And they were like, you should do autocross. So basically you're just going through, like I said, like an obstacle course. They set up cones. You have to do like 90-degree angle turns, hairpin turns as fast as you possibly can. And so yeah, so like you're doing these turns sometimes at like, you're doing like hairpin turns at like 50, 60 miles an hour, which doesn't sound that fast. But when you're doing a hairpin turn, it's pretty freaking fast. Yeah. So I got into that, and then my dad started racing, actually racing when I was in college, and I was like, hey, let's do that. I want to do that too. And so, yeah. So the autocross provided like a really good background for that, and then he started racing, and I was like, cool, I'm gonna just hop on the bandwagon, and we kind of just went from there.
Nice.
So, yeah,
nice. Yeah, I didn't know any of that. So I guess that kind of answers my next question, but just so you can kind of put it in years, so how long have you been racing?
So racing since I was about 18. 18 was how old I was in college, freshman year of college. Yeah, 18. Okay. And then autocross since I was 16. So doing things in cars at high speed since I was 16. We'll go with that.
And then tell everyone how old you are now.
I am 23 now.
Yes, so a while.
I am old.
Shut up, I'm 24, so you're making me feel old.
Okay, well, you're not old.
Well, then you're not old.
It's fine. It's fine.
So actually answered. Oh, how old were you when you like participated in your first race?
19.
19? Nice.
Yeah,
And then do you remember the like exact car you were driving? Or
yes, I 100% do. It was a 996, so it's a Porsche 911. 996 is the model. It's a body style. I have you probably can't see it on my phone, but it's actually the background on my phone. Is that old car.
Okay.
Is that old 996 right there. And I liked it because it was purple. It's just my favorite color. But yes, I was driving that little 996, just a little street car. It didn't have anything racy about it, like no roll cage, nothing, just a little
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I was just racing it. It was fun.
So adding on to that, do you remember what track you were at?
Yep, I was at Circuit of the Americas, which is also called COTA.
Okay.
It's in Austin, Texas. Favorite track, my absolute favorite track. I love that track.
Nice.
Super fun.
And then you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but do you remember what place you came in?
Came in second.
Second place on your first race? Dang, girl.
I was not really, in all defense, I really wasn't up against anybody that was particularly good.
Okay.
So, it was honestly, it wasn't hard to get second at that race.
Yeah, I feel like maybe you were downplaying it a little bit, but sure.
Really not.
So, I know you've kind of told me a little bit about how y'all buy used or damaged Porsches or stuff like that, and then you actually turn them into race cars. So can you kind of give me a summary or a step-by-step of like what the process is like?
Oh gosh, okay.
Or
so
like
I'll go
something
through,
that we could understand.
So I'll go through how we built the car that I currently race.
Okay.
So the car that I currently race is a Cayman. It's a Porsche Cayman. So that's one step below a 911. So I actually downgraded, but it's fine. But so it's a Cayman. It's like an 09. I want to say 2009 Cayman. It's black. I love it.
Nice.
So how we actually found it was actually a Harvey flood car from the Harvey hurricane.
Okay.
And they kept it at Texas World Speedway, which is right outside College Station. Straight is the racetrack. It's not there anymore. They tore it down. Super sad about that.
Yeah.
But they kept a bunch of cars there from the flood, like really thousands of cars. And I found one that didn't have like damage to any electrical systems or anything like that. Like the water level where that car had been flooded, wherever that car was when the flood happened, the water level in the car was like very, very low. It hadn't gotten any electricals at all. So we took that car, and my crew chief, Quirt, who maintains all of the cars, he is amazing. I love him. He's perfect. He completely stripped out the car, took everything out, moved all of like the seats, everything like that. Then he proceeded to put what's called a roll cage in there, which is just a steel cage, like all throughout the body of the car, just to protect you. So he put a roll cage in, and then he put in a bunch of electronics and things that I don't really know. New gearbox, new everything. Literally stripped the car completely, replaced everything. He put a PDK system in there. So what that is it's a dual clutch transmission. It's a sequential shifter, so I'm not using a clutch pedal whenever I'm shifting. I'm using just paddles on the sides of the steering wheel. So that's how that works. And that's nice because originally when I was doing racing my 996, I was shifting and using a clutch, which I can do just fine, but it honestly is easier to not have to do that because your mind is going all over the place when you're racing. There's a lot to think about, a lot to focus on.
Yeah.
So the PDK, actually the engine itself shifts faster with the PDK system because it can electronically shift faster than a human can. So it actually makes the car faster and it makes it a little bit easier too. So yeah, we just found a car, stripped it out, gutted it, put some really cool decals on it, some green stripes.
Nice.
My number 46. I call it the Green Hornet. It's my baby.
I love it.
I love that car. I kind of hate it right now because it's giving me some issues, so I need court to fix it. But yeah, so that's how we do it. Now, as far as my dad's cars, how he gets his cars, it's a whole other story I can go into if you would like. But
if you want to talk about it, this is your interview.
I will briefly mention it because he's way cooler than I am.
Okay.
So his cars, so we don't really build his cars, we get his cars already built. So he races 911 GT3 Cup cars.
Okay.
So those are stock built race cars. You cannot go to a dealership and buy these vehicles. Like, they were never ever street cars, they were built for racing. And so we don't buy them new because they cost a fortune new.
Yeah.
So we get them used. Typically that has had, you know, we'll get one with like an engine that only has a few hours on it. And what that means is it's not measured by miles, it's measured by literal hours on the engine, how many hours it has been spent racing. And so we'll get an engine to flow, a car that has an engine to flow hours on it, and we'll buy one used, and then we'll put we'll wrap the car, put our own decals, mileage, numbers on it, and everything like that. So his stuff is like way cooler and simpler to do than mine is. So, but yeah,
that's wild. But would you say that like his costs a little bit more than yours, or would you say y'all probably spend about the same, like, with both processes?
His car is outrageously more expensive than mine.
Yeah, because it's a stock car.
The cost to operate that vehicle, the cost to race that vehicle over a weekend is exponentially more than mine. Like, so much more. The tires are more expensive. The fuel is more expensive. Everything is more expensive. So his car is super expensive to run, super expensive to buy, super expensive to operate, maintain, all of it. Mine's a little bit cheaper, so you're welcome, Dad. That I race cheaper cars. But yeah.
So my next question, I love that. I hope he watches this and he's like, thank you, Laura. Thank you. My next question is, how do you train for your races? Do you just go to the track and like keep racing around, or do you like have other people that you like practice race with? Is that a dumb question?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. So I watch a lot of races. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. There's a couple racers in particular that I follow, some pros. You can learn a lot just by watching racing. As in terms of like actually training for it, the biggest thing is just seat time. So just getting in the car, getting on track, just running laps, just constantly running laps, finding the limits of your car, finding the limits of your tires, just constantly doing laps. Another really great way is a lot of people have what's called a simulator. So they'll basically, and there's different levels of simulators. Some are much more expensive and much more involved and more technical. But we used to have one. I don't think we have it anymore. We kept it at the truck where we store all of our cars at in Granbury. and kind of everybody that stored their cars in that garage like kind of helped pay for that simulator because they're super expensive. I want to say they sold it. I don't think they have it anymore. But anyway, basically what it was is it looked like an arcade, like one of those racing games that you would see like at an arcade. And but it had like a real racing steering wheel, real clutch, pedal, and everything like that. And then you'd use VR goggles. And you had like 3 screens in front of you, and you would program like real tracks, like real life tracks. So like I could race Coda if I wanted to. And so what we would do is if we were going to be traveling to a track that we hadn't been to yet, we would sometimes, you know, go and practice on the sim, and we would go and race that track virtually to learn the racing line and to learn the turns and to learn the track before we got there.
That is wild.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's fun though. It's fun.
Yeah, that sounds just like a fun video game. And then you get to go do it in real life. So that makes it even more fun.
Yeah.
Wild. What are all like the places that races have like taken you, and do you remember the names of the tracks?
Yeah, so I haven't raced at nearly as many tracks as my dad. Like, been to a lot of tracks because I go to all his races. Okay. So tracks that I've raced at would be Coda, Circuit of Americas in Austin, tons of times. Obviously MSR Crescent, which is Motorsport Ranch Crescent. That's where we store all of our cars, so that's where I do most of my training. Okay. I've gone to Hallett, which is a track in Oklahoma. I've traveled there a couple times. I'm from Oklahoma, but I actually hadn't been to that track before I started racing, which is kind of cool. Let's see, where else have I gone? I'm trying to think of someplace cool. Barber, which is in, where is Barber? Barber's in Alabama. Barber Motorsports Park is in Alabama. Okay. Road America, which is in Wisconsin. Super, super cool track. Love Road America. I have never driven there. My dad has. Okay. I would love to do Road America. Daytona. Probably everybody knows Daytona. Yes. In Florida. Super cool track. My dad's gotten to race out in Sonoma, California. That is also a dream track of mine. So yeah, kind of anywhere there is a track. I mean, there's tons of other tracks that we've been to.
But those are like your favorite ones?
What's that?
But those are like your favorite ones?
Yeah, those are my favorite for sure. Those are my favorite. Absolutely.
Sorry, I wrote all my questions down because I'm not good at remembering.
Ever apologize. You're a perfect human being. Stop.
You're perfect. Stop. You're a sunflower. So, what's been your absolute favorite that you've raced at? Would you say Coda? Because every time you talk about it, you're like, I love that track.
I would say Coda. I would. And I know there's a lot of reasons that I love Coda. The track is super nice. It's not a hard track, surprisingly. It's a super long track, and that's part of why I like it, because there's 2 straights on it. Okay, nice. And you, like, 2 really long straights on it, which is super fun because obviously you just get to whack it. And just drag whoever you're racing like down the straight and just see, all right, like who's gonna outrank the other person into this corner at the end? Who knows? I don't know. Could be me, could be you. It's definitely gonna be me, but we'll see. And so, you know, it's just a lot of fun. So I love the straights. It's also just a super nice track. Facilities are super great. It's a Formula 1 track. It's the only Formula 1 track in America, which if you don't know what Formula 1 is, it's European racing, and they race in way cooler cars than I could ever dream of racing in. But yeah, so Formula 1 is like the cool version of of racing.
Okay. Because I think any racing's cool, and you race Porsches. That is the cool version of racing.
It was a poorly formed sentence, just excuse me.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, I just love COTA. It's also in Austin. I love Austin.
Mm-hmm.
It also is one of the tracks that I go to pretty frequently to go watch MotoGP, which is motorcycle racing, which is something I've watched since I was like probably 5. And fun fact, my favorite MotoGP racer, Valentino Rossi, his number is 46. That's why my number is 46, because I copied him.
Nice.
So yeah, that's why I like COTA, because they race there a lot, and I go there to see MotoGP. So there's a lot of reasons to like COTA. I like COTA. That was a long rant about COTA.
No, you're good. I loved it. Do you have a favorite car that you've raced in, or are all of your like cars you have like something special about each one that you've liked?
I would honestly say that my current car, my Cayman, my Green Hornet, is definitely my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's the first car that I've really gotten to personalize,
Mm-hmm.
And just make completely my own.
Yeah.
So like the other cars, I weren't really like full-blown race cars. I feel like, you know, like they were mainly just street cars, but like we didn't really do anything to them. They were just kind of like designated, like these are our cars that we track, these are our cars that we race. But we didn't like do anything special to them. Like, so the one that was on my phone, the 996, the only thing I ever did to that car, no, I lied. No, I did 2 things to this car. I actually did get to kind of personalize that car. I put a racing banner across the top, so it was like a sticker that had like across the top windshield that had like my number on it, and it had like my colors on it. But before I did that, all I had were like little like magnet decals. You know, like people when they have like their work vehicles, but it's also like their personal vehicle, so they have like their work decal like magnets that they stick on the sides of their doors.
Yeah.
Today, that's what I did with this vehicle.
Nice.
I had like yellow numbers on it because I didn't have a color for my car yet. It was also purple, and I didn't know how to do things, how to match colors properly.
No, I love it. Wait,
it was like wasn't really. It was cool because that was like kind of one of my first, but I like my current car now because it was the first car like specially built for me. And honestly, Quirt, he really is like our crew chief. He really is like a member of our family, and he did so many cool things to just really personalize this car for me, and like took so much care like in doing it and in building it, and like literally like built me like the most high-tech like roll cage, like more than like a regular roll cage, literally just because he was like, I just want you to be safe. And as silly as that sounds, it just like, I don't know, that like he took so much care in building it. It was like my first real one. Like it's just a really special car to me.
That's so sweet. I think well, I don't think, I know like the only times we have ever talked about like you racing Porsches, it's been about your car, and every time it's in the shop is when we talk about it, and you're always talking about your head crew chief. So trust me, I know you love that guy. He is definitely a part of your family, and from what I hear, I can't wait to meet him when I finally get to go to one of your races.
Please, yes, he's the most, he doesn't like talk crap about you and be rude to your face, then he doesn't like you. Like if he likes you, he'll be like a jerk to you.
Okay, no, take it.
And that's just like the type of person he is, and I feel like you could really get behind that because I know you. I feel like you could really get behind that sort of personality, and I really feel like I'll get along.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, so thanks.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a flower dress. I'm trying to look all sweet and nice, and you're ruining it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I've known you for too long. I'm sorry. We're too close, so we have to keep close.
Okay, back to racing Porsches. All right, enough about me. Okay, my next question. What is, or do you know, like, the fastest you've ever gone?
I actually don't.
No! Do you know, like, an estimate? Maybe?
Do I know what?
Like, an estimate? Like, you could say maybe it's around...
Okay, so... Okay. Let me preface this. Alright, so in my current vehicle, which is the one I race most often, that is not the fastest vehicle I've ever raced.
Okay.
But preface it by that.
Okay.
That vehicle, I know for a fact, on the back straight of Coda, which is the longest straight I have been on, so that's going to be the most accurate. I remember last time I was there, I remember I looked down, I was checking my gauges, because, race fact, on your straights, check your gauges, check your water temp, oil temp, all that stuff. Anyway, I looked down, and I hit, like, towards the end of the straight in that car, I think I hit about 145. Again, not that fast, as fast as you would think in that car. However, in other vehicles, not in racing situations, don't do this at home, folks. This is illegal. I have gone 201.
Okay. Should I explain what happened?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, sorry, my camera stopped recording, so... Okay, we're back. Sorry, you were in the middle of telling us the fastest you ever gone. 201, go.
201. I went 201. Not on a track, on a highway. It's fine.
That's not where I was expecting
I
that to
was
go.
with my dad. It's fine. I was with my dad. It's okay. He condoned it, so it's fine. Here's the thing. My father and I do this thing every time I'm home visiting, where we will go in the garage on a Saturday morning at like 6:30, 7:30 in the morning, and we'll look at each other and we'll say, pick a car. And so we will each pick a car, and then we will race each other down Route 66, because I'm from Oklahoma, so I have access to Route 66. So we'll race each other down Route 66, we'll stop halfway, have some breakfast, switch cars, and then race each other home.
Oh my goodness.
So, it's fine. So when I say my dad was with me, yes, he was with me in another car alongside me, racing me. So he was pushing me to go faster, so I had to.
So your dad made you go 201?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. We do this every time I'm home, so it's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
so now for like the questions that I don't know, the questions that I'm kind of really excited about. I mean, I was excited to ask those other questions, but I'm also excited to ask these ones. But would you say it's a difficult sport for women to get into, or would you say that you actually see a good amount of women participating?
You know, it's funny. You see actually a lot, I feel like a lot more women than you would expect. Which is really cool. It's really cool. And it's not hard for anybody to get into this sport, honestly, at all. It really isn't. It's not even hard to get a race license at all. You can get one in about 3 days.
I didn't even know you needed a license to race. So
Yeah, you do.
well, like a separate license. I knew you probably needed a driver's license, but I didn't know.
Yeah, you need a driver's license, but then you go get your race license as well. But yeah, like, no, you actually, yeah, like you see like a pretty fair amount of women. Now, I'm definitely not saying you see like equal amount women to men. Definitely not. I mean, obviously, definitely less women. But there's actually a good amount, and I feel like every time I go to the track, I see more. And what's really cool is I see more women, like, not necessarily women racing, but I see more women coming to watch, which is cool because, like, you know, that's how sometimes people get into things. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like they come and they watch and they're like, hey, I want to do that. And I've seen some, like, girls be like, hey, that's really cool. Like, I think I kind of want to do that.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, like, you can definitely go to pretty much about any race and you'll probably see at least 1 or 2 female race drivers. Yeah, for sure.
Nice. And so I know you said, like, earlier that you kind of got into racing because it's like a family thing. Are you the first girl in your family to be racing?
I am.
Nice.
I am. That's what's up. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. So I guess you kind of answered this, but I still wanted to ask this question. Would you say being a woman in, I mean, typically a male-dominated sport, you know, you get treated differently than your male counterpart, both like positive or negatively?
I would say more than anything, people are just like, guys are honestly like, wow, that's super cool that you do this. Like, honestly, like, haven't had any negative experience with it.
Good.
Whatsoever. Now, in the pros, there has been some negativity, not saying that it's male, that it's how do I say this? Not saying that it's like negative because it's like, oh, like, you're a woman, you shouldn't be doing this. It's just that, like, you've seen some times where, like, definitely, like, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. You've definitely seen some areas in the pro world where it's a lot harder to enter that space.
Okay. As a woman or just in general?
As a woman, like, it's just harder to enter that space, like, just in general. In a pro setting, it's harder to
prove yourself, you know, like, they're gonna have to prove themselves more. Is that, like, kind of what you're saying?
I guess. You know, it's funny because I honestly haven't paid much attention to it. But and it's weird because, you know, I actually only follow, like, a handful of pro female drivers. And there are a lot more, but not a lot of them are well known or are well recognized. You know, a lot of them are in much smaller areas of the pro world, a lot less recognized areas, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to describe, but yeah, like, it's harder to make a name for yourself. I guess is a good way to put it. It's harder to make a name for yourself. Yeah.
Well, you kind of answered that question. Do you know how many, like, races total that you've done? Like, do you know? You looked really scared of that question.
Okay, no idea.
Okay. Do you have, like, an estimate? Over, like, 10, over 20?
Yes.
Over 30?
Yes.
Over 50. I know I jumped, but
I think we're at probably the 50 mark.
Okay, nice.
So probably at the 50 mark. There's not a lot of races per season.
How many races per season are there?
Generally about, well, I say that. There's probably anywhere between 12 to 20, kind of depends on the year. Especially this year.
Yeah. We can kind of segue into that because I have a couple questions about the pandemic.
Absolutely.
How has it affected the races? Like, has everything been closed this whole time, or are the tracks still running?
So, tracks are still running. But the vast majority of races were canceled.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, I don't think I actually mentioned this. So I do what's called club racing, right? So I'm not a pro. Should have stated that earlier. Definitely not a pro at this whatsoever, by the way. This is a hobby for me.
But you're still over here getting nice places in races, so don't even.
But really. So I do what's called club racing. So there's different leagues, I guess you would say. The largest one, this is actually the largest racing sanctioning body, I think it's actually in the world, and it's called the SCCA. It's called Sports Car Club of America. I don't know if anybody who watches this will have ever watched the movie Ford versus Ferrari, but you've probably heard about it. Have you heard of the movie Ford versus Ferrari?
I'm sorry, no.
Yeah, it had, what's his face? Christian Bale and Matt Damon in it.
Well, yeah, that sounds like a movie I probably should have seen.
Know about these things, Mia.
Sorry.
Anyway, SCCA is basically makes up like the first 5 scenes of that movie. He's at an SCCA race, and it's actually hilarious because they try to disqualify him over something that's absolutely BS. And it's the most accurate thing about SCCA ever. And so, yeah, so I do what's called SCCA. There's also a couple other clubs, so PCA, which is called Porsche Club of America, NASA, which is National Auto Sports Association. We don't do NASA races anymore because they're janky. But anyway, it has affected things because some clubs have been more willing to continue racing, and some have been like, no, absolutely not. We're not like, we're not doing any of it. Like, we're just gonna completely like shelter in place. Completely like social distance, so like just no racing, no nothing. So, and it's gotten better. So there were a handful of races held this year. But when I say a handful, I mean a handful across the couple of clubs / leagues that I race in.
Yeah.
I would say probably a dozen. And that's very few. Considering it's very few. Because when I say it doesn't, I don't mean a dozen races, I mean a dozen events. And each club will actually do different events, so they may not be a race. It could be something like a time trial, right? So where you're not actually like racing anybody on track, you're doing laps and you're being timed, and that's how you compete. Or they're doing something that's called an HPDE, which is something that I actually do a lot for training. That's called a high performance driving event. There are different groups based on skill. They're color coded. You typically have an instructor in the car with you at all times, unless you are in the red group, which is the completely advanced solo group. It's my group. Or if you're in the white group, which is instructors only, so that way instructors have some time during the day where they get to actually like drive on track and not have to be training some idiot who doesn't know how to drive. But like they cancel events like that too. So they cancel like all track events.
Okay.
So short answer to your question, yes, it's definitely been affected. Lots of stuff has been canceled, but they did just release, at least SCCA did, they just released the track schedule, or the race schedule for next year.
Nice.
And
So
a lot of it coming up.
Oh, sorry. So, well, I guess that kind of answers my question of, do you have any scheduled or coming up? But that would be your coming up, right? Next year?
Yes. Yes. I think it's February 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Nice. Maybe I could come and video it and we can put it on my show.
Do it. do it. And fun fact, guess what track it's at? Coda.
Perfect. Oh yeah, and you'll give us a tour of your pit and everything. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So that's happening. So remember.
Yes.
How long has it been? Do what? What?
Sorry, I said I'm gonna have to take off work.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Just tell them I'm racing cars. I mean, you sell cars and you're going to race cars, so it's fine. It's practically work related.
They're fine with it. Maybe they'll sponsor me.
Yeah, maybe. How long has it been since you last raced? Like, when was your last race?
Okay, this is really sad and tragic.
Oh.
Right. Last race, which I just learned this, I thought it was way sooner, but pandemic has completely like screwed my sense of time.
Yes.
Literally, it's been since the very end of January was my last race.
Oh.
Yeah. Reason being is because I had some races in February, I had some races in March, and then I had car issues. So I couldn't compete in a couple of races. And then I actually had school because I was still in college at that point.
Yeah.
And normally I would happily skip school for races. I've done it a ton. But it was last semester of senior year, so I couldn't skip it because, you know, capstone projects.
I know.
There was that. So yeah, and then March pandemic hit and everything.
Yeah.
Everything got messed up.
Well, damn. But you have next year coming up. So,
Absolutely.
and I'm excited because I will see a race next year. So it's supposed to be this year, and then the pandemic. But, do you have like a favorite memory, like a favorite race that you've raced? Like, do you have a specific? I don't know if that's coming out right. Do you understand what I'm trying to?
Yes, I do. No, I do. I totally do.
Okay, cool.
Honestly, I would say actually that last race in January was actually probably one of my favorites. It was a lot of fun. Racing with my dad,
Nice.
which is always a blast because sometimes like we'll be both at a race, but like sometimes he won't race that weekend. Like I'll just race, or it'll just be him racing.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't always race the same weekend. But it was really fun because that weekend we were both racing. And so that's always really fun. So like I remember he got out of the car, and he won everything. He swept the weekend, and I remember I was so proud of him because he hadn't not even raced, but hadn't even been in the car in like months, and he was on like I think like 6-month-old tires, like super old tires. And if in racing, honestly, tires is like the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you spend the most money on. Like, it's the most important thing. And I just remember I was being so proud of him because I was like, he was on tires. I was like, that he was racing on last race like 6 months ago. I was like, and they were pieces of shit then. And I was like, I don't know how he's racing on this, on these tires. And so he had like a really great weekend. I had a really great weekend because my car was also having problems that weekend, but we were able to get it up. We were able to get it going.
Nice.
I didn't even qualify. And so your qualifying determines where you start in the race.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't even able to run the qualifying session because we were still fixing my car. So that means I started dead last.
Yeah. Oh man.
And I remember I was able to move up in that race while still actually encountering some car issues during the race. I was able to move up, I think, like 14 or 15 places from dead last. So which I was super proud of.
Yeah.
And I think there were only 20 people in that race, so I went from like dead last to like 5th in like 20 minutes while still including some car issues.
Nice.
So I was super proud of it that weekend. So that was fun because like Dad pulled together on some really crappy tires and swept the weekend. My amazing crew was able to pull together and still get me out on track, and I was able to make up some ground. So that was just, I don't know why, that was just a really fun race. That was a really cool weekend.
Nice. I love that. I love I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. All right, so this question you already know. I'm just gonna go completely to the opposite. And just prerequisite, I asked if this was okay to ask before this because I would never want to just ask this question without someone knowing that it's coming up. But have you ever gotten into a wreck, and would you care to share with us what happened?
Absolutely. Not on track, not in a race. Definitely just on the streets in my crap Volkswagen that I used to have. Yeah. I have not. I've been very fortunate. My dad has. And that was really scary.
I actually remember that, you telling me about it. But yeah, sorry, keep going, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So there were 2 instances. So it's pretty typical for people in a race to have contact, where you just bump the other person. Mm-hmm. Usually, it happens to everybody. So, that's happened to him before. But there were 2 times where he had a pretty bad wreck, and one time was way worse than the other. But the first time I remember specifically because I watched it happen and I saw it happening before it happened. And what really sucked at that time is that I normally have a headset. We all have radios, we all have picks, we all has headsets. Mm-hmm. And there's a radio in the car, and for whatever reason that day someone had grabbed my headset and I didn't have it. And I was standing on top of this building at Daytona, and I was watching him, and it was the last lap of the race, and he was in first, and he was going to win it. And I saw this guy coming down, and I could see where he was trying to go, and I could see that he was about to try and make a really bad pass, and I knew it wasn't going to work. And I knew that at where the point my dad was going to be in the turn, and the point where this guy was going to be when he came down, was that there was going to be nowhere for my dad to go. Mm-hmm. And I saw it all happen about 3 seconds before it actually happened.
Yeah.
And I was just hit because I just remember sitting there. I was like, I don't have my headset. I can't say anything to him on radio. I can't warn him. I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And so I remember watching it happen, and it didn't end up being a super bad wreck. He got hit from behind. He spun out. Pretty severe damage to the car. Nothing that we couldn't fix. We were able to, kind of patch it up over the weekend. Mm-hmm. He was pissed because he lost the race. And what was really stupid was that the guy that hit him wasn't even racing against him. He wasn't even in his class. So if he passed my dad, it wouldn't have done anything for that person. He wouldn't have advanced forward in the spots because he wasn't in the same class, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
it was stupid for that guy to make such a really bad pass, because it wouldn't have done anything for him, and all it did was end the race for both of them. Mm-hmm. And so that was really frustrating. But the really bad wreck was at Coda. And there are races in the PCA and Porsche Club of America called fun races. And those are for people, you're required to do them until you've done a certain amount of races with the PCA. Those are for people who are relatively new to racing. Or, like I said, you don't necessarily even have to be new to racing, you just have to be new to the PCA, and they just want to make sure that you race well, have sportsmanlike conduct, conduct yourself, don't do bad passes, things like that. So they make you go through a series of fun races each race weekend. I think you have to do 4 or 5.
Okay.
And all they really are is, they don't count for anything. They're just to basically practice a race start, and a pace lap and a couple laps. So you're only 4 or 5 laps long. Mm-hmm. And my dad he didn't need to do a fun race. He'd been racing long enough, he wasn't required to do one. He just was going to do one day just for some extra track time, because I don't remember what happened, but for whatever reason he hadn't had a lot of time to test the car out. He didn't have a lot of track time. So he was like, whatever, you know, I'll just do the fun race, you know, just make sure everything's working on the car, just test it out, and it'll be fine. And I was like, yeah, okay. And, you know, my uncle decided to do it too, because my uncle also races, by the way.
Nice.
And so they're both racing, and he was going into a turn that leads onto the back straight of Coda. It's turn 10. Well, it's turn 10 and then 11, but it's kind of two turns. Anyway, he was going to that turn. And I honestly don't remember exactly what happened. I remember it wasn't his fault. It was a situation where he didn't have anywhere else to go. Like, something had happened to the cars in front of him, and I really can't remember what it was. Something had happened to the cars in front of him to where he had to make a decision. He was either hit the car in front of him or turn and try and avoid it, but he knew even if he turned, it wasn't going to be good. So he was under really hard braking, and he turned really hard left, and the car hooked really hard, and he hit the railing on the left, and the car, just went, like, imagine the railing was, like, right here, and the car just went boom, 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 just, like, spun and, like, kept hitting the railing. So, like, each end of the car kept hitting the railing.
Yeah.
So the front of the car and the rear of the car was completely destroyed. And I could hear on the radio, all I could hear on the radio was my uncle as he drove past, and he was like, Barry, are you okay? Are you okay? And my dad didn't say anything for, like, several seconds. And when he did come on the radio, what he was saying didn't make sense. Like, he was, like, incoherent, like, not saying real words. And so that was really tough. Like, that was really scary, because I was at an area of the track where I couldn't see that area of the track. I didn't know what was going on. And so, yeah, that was scary. Like, and he ended up being fine. All he had was, like, a concussion. But what happened is we got the footage from inside the car, and in a race seat, there's what's called a halo. So, like, the back of the seat will actually come out, like, the head of the seat come out, like, about this far, you know, to kind of keep your head, so, like, in the event of a crash, you're not, you know, like, going all like that. And what happened was, like, his head actually, during the crash, came out of the halo of the seat and, like, around. Like, that's how far, and, like, when you're in a race car, like, you are strapped down, and you have a device on, like, that strapped to your helmet, that's like the neck brace that's strapped to your helmet that's supposed to keep your head from doing that, and it didn't. And so that was really horrifying. And he was fine. The thing that pissed me off was this lady, I remember they took the car on the truck, and they were driving it through the pits, like, towards our garage, and they, like, parked it right in front of our garage. I mean, the car was just destroyed, and this lady came up, and she was just, like, snapping pictures of the car and everything, and I was like, you know, I get it, like, whenever I'm at a race, like, if there's a crash, like, typically everybody runs out of the garage to see what happened, and I get it, I do the same thing, it's natural, it's human nature, like, to want to see what's going on, but that frustrated me so much, because, like, at that point in time, I didn't even know, like, if my dad was okay at that point. Like, I didn't know anything. All she cared about was, like, taking pictures of the completely destroyed car. And, like, it pissed me off. Like, I remember I walked up to her and I was like, can you please just, like, leave and, like, not take pictures of this? And she was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I was like, that's my dad's car. I was like, I don't know if he's okay. This was a really bad accident, obviously. Like, can you please just, like, give us all some space and just leave, like, this area, like, right now? And she was like, yeah, like, I'm so sorry, but I don't know. It just hit me off. Anyway, that was a bad crash. So,
well, thank you for opening up and talking about that. I know that is terrifying. I literally can't imagine. That would be horrible, and I remember when it happened, and I remember you talking to me about it, and it's still shocking every time I hear it. That just sucks. That is why I'm terrified to go watch you in a race, but I'm going to do it.
The first person I texted that day.
Yes. Yeah. No, I remember when that happened, because it was just really, really scary. And I know you were really scared, and I wanted so bad to just be there and like give you a hug, but yeah. So I love you. So for my last racing question, it's, I feel like you're gonna like answering this one, but how big of an impact has racing had on your life?
Oh my gosh, huge impact.
Yes.
Honestly, yeah, no, like, more than you'd ever think. Racing honestly teaches you so much about life in general. Like, honestly, it really does. You know, like, I remember one time I literally wrote like a 3-paragraph article. It was 3 paragraphs in some bullet points, and I posted it on my LinkedIn. But you could list it as an article, so I call it an article. That's what it says as on LinkedIn, so that's what I'm gonna call it.
No, I love it. It's an article.
It's an article, okay. But literally just like things, what did I call it? I called it something like really cheesy, like for a title too. It was something like life lessons learned behind the wheel of a race car or something like that.
No, I love it.
It was stupid, but accurate. So no, like it teaches you so much about life, so much about racing can be applied to life. You know, honestly, like working hard, honestly, like to just get better and do things. Like it constantly takes seat time. It constantly takes just like dedication to it. Just like work hard, you know, and really go for it. If it's something you want to do and you want to get better at, then you have to work at it. Mm-hmm. You know, like another thing that's kind of funny. People say is they always say like slow is fast, or no, they always say.
Okay, we're back again. Sorry. My camera cuts off every 30 minutes, and I didn't know that because I don't know much about cameras, so I'm sorry. But as you were saying, life lessons you learn behind the wheel of a race car. I love it. Keep going. I'm so sorry.
I'm ready. Yeah, no, just work hard for what you do. Don't try to go fast. That was honestly a big one. You know, like don't. It's so true for racing. It's so true for life. Don't try and go around corners super fast. Don't just try and press the gas pedal down. You have to focus on getting your line right. Mm-hmm. The line is everything in racing. Getting your correct path around the racetrack. If it doesn't matter if you're flying around a corner at 90 miles an hour. If you don't hit the correct exit point coming out of that corner, guess what? Your speed out of that corner is going to be cut in half. Yeah. You know, so like you have to make sure that you have the right path. So make sure, you know, don't try to go fast. Don't try to get somewhere and do something fast. Slow down. Focus on all the little things. Focus on getting everything perfect, getting everything right. I mean, don't try to be perfect, because no one's perfect, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
focus on just getting everything as good as you can possibly get it, and then you will be fast, and then success will come. Mm-hmm. And that's honestly, that's probably like the biggest thing about racing, is like, you know, just focus, just slow down, focus. Everything will be chill. So it'll be fun, you know?
No, I love it. Okay, and then this is my actual last question, not about racing. I'm starting a new thing on my show where I ask one question to all of my guests. And this one question is, if you were famous, what would you have to have in your dressing room?
No. Wait, Mia, hold up. This is this I need some clarification, right? Okay. Because I do acting too. So is this my acting dressing room, right? Am I a famous actor? Or is this my racing dressing room? Am I a famous race car driver?
How about if they're different answers, let's just do both.
Actually, no, I think they'd both be the same answer. Now the more I think about it. It would be it would be a copy of the album Let's Cheers to This by Sleeping with Sirens, because I need it. I need to hear it to
You need your Kellen Quish. I love you. You love Sleeping with Sirens so much.
Don't let anyone ever tell you that they're
Literally.
lame, because they're not, okay? And they know that they listened to them in middle school, alright?
The minute I heard album, I said, okay, what Sleeping with Sirens album is she about to name?
Which one is it?
Which one is she in the mood for right now?
Who knows? It could be Feel. It could be Madness.
It could be all of
Let's
them.
Cheers to This.
You're like, I want all the Sleeping with Sirens albums in my dressing room.
All of them. Except for their newest one.
Yeah.
Newest one's good.
Yeah. All right, but that is all of my questions. Thank you so much for being my second guest and talking about racing. Just so everyone knows, Laura Bell is a photographer, so go like and follow her Instagram, which will be under her name at the beginning of the video. I'll also put it at the end in case you don't want to scroll all the way back. But thank y'all so much. I'll have another guest next week, so I'll see you then. Bye!
Bye, friend. Thank you. Mwah.
Yay!